At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about.
Okay, I think, Prof, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I was having some internet issues because of the storm. Okay, well, welcome everybody, and thank you again for joining us today on the Literary Hour. We're very happy to see all of you here, and of course, we're always pleased to see Prof. Nagbe. Hi, Prof.
Yeah, Jackie, how are you?
I'm okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice to have us back again.
So, are you ready?
Yes, please, I am.
Okay, Prof. So, well, how was your week?
It was one of those roller coaster type of situations, but thank God we are here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank God. Yeah.
I hope yours went well too.
It was so up and down, but
We're here.
God has brought us to Friday, so that's good. So we've decided to focus today on Sophocles' Antigone. And thank you, Prof. I actually read it again, and I mean, I was really moved by this play. Yeah. It's as if every time you read it and you reread it with your lived experience, you get to see things that you didn't see as a young person reading this play.
And that's what life is all about. Life is all about.
Yes.
Maya Menis did an essay. I think we talked about, if not in detail, but in passing, we talked about Maya Menis, the essay titled "How Do You Know It's Good?"
How do you know it's good?
How do you know it's good? And one of the prescriptive lessons you get from that essay is that we never understand or appreciate the beauty of a piece of art until we've made several visitations, because at the moment of each visitation there is something that you might not have found in the first instance. When you go 2 or 3 times, and then everything begins to come together, and that's when you know the profoundness of that piece of work.
Yeah, it seemed also as if and you're right, every time you look at every time I'm like, oh, I missed this part. Yeah. Oh, I missed this part, so I agree with you that is like peeling and there's a layer underneath and a layer
Yeah,
underneath, and I agree with you. And then like we also discuss what is a classic, and we say when it stands the test of time.
yes, stands the test of time.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
and
It's intergenerational and all that. Yes.
yes, and this certainly has stood the test of time.
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit about Sophocles first, the author.
Yeah.
We always,
Yeah.
when we're discussing a piece of work, we always
Mhm.
reading the bio of the author.
Yes, yes, yes,
These
yes.
poor people like Shakespeare and the other, we like, oh, everybody knows Shakespeare.
Yeah, yeah, but no, sometimes it's not.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Sophocles.
Oh, I thought you were going to read that. But anyway, Sophocles happened to being one of the principal Greek playwrights,
Yes.
and he, like several other Greek writers and playwrights, they spoke about the conditions of their time, and yet because uh, one human time has a way of permeating another human time, we found their works very, very. It's about the same thing about the Bible, for instance. People of their time wrote about things of their time, and yet those things, human beings being who they are and what they are, whatever they talked about some 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000 years ago continue to be. So Sophocles did a few plays, called them trilogies, and that is part of what we are looking at today, which is Antigone. He also did Oedipus Rex. Sometimes they call
Yes.
Oedipus Rex and what have you, which
Yes.
is Oedipus the king, and you know, there's another Medea. So there are a couple of them that he wrote, and those speaking to the issue of laws, those speaking to the issue of politics, those speaking to the issue of the governed and the governor. All these things are part and parcel of what Sophocles and others wrote.
And like you said, how do you know it is good?
Mhm.
I mean, he wrote this around 406 BC.
Yeah, yeah,
It has stood the test of time.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So for those of you watching, we're going to ground the
Mhm.
story. I mean, the discussion of tragedy around
Mhm.
Antigone, which is one
Yeah,
of Sophocles' tragedies.
yes.
Um, and we're going to discuss it in the context of there's so many themes in this play. There's
Yeah.
love, sibling rivalry,
Mhm.
there's civil disobedience,
Mhm.
there is God's law versus natural law, well, natural law versus man-made law.
Yeah.
There's obedience and disobedience. So there are a
Mhm.
lot of things that
Yeah.
we will discuss. And also, an important thing is this is a timeless subject.
Yeah.
You know, should we obey laws that are unjust?
Mhm.
You know, and this is not a subject that only Sophocles wrestled with. This
Yeah.
is a subject that Thoreau,
Yeah.
David Thoreau, is civil
Yeah.
disobedience.
Yeah.
Uh, Martin Luther
Even
King,
the
and
very
even,
Socrates, yes.
yes, Socrates, and even in our own daily lives, we
Mhm.
wrestle with this. You know, whose law should we obey?
Yeah.
Man's law or God's law?
Yeah.
You know. So I always, when we start, then people come midway and say, "Oh, what are you?" But if we're to discuss Antigone in the format of a tragedy, then we need to discuss what a tragedy is.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, as always, Prof and I, we have our little cheat sheet,
Yeah.
and so we oops, so there's something wrong with our sheet. Is not showing. Add to stream. Okay, so can you? Um, okay, so it's a tragedy then is an imitation of an action that is serious,
Mhm.
complete, and of a certain magnitude, right, Prof?
Yeah.
Every tragedy, for all of us here who have done our little play course, every tragedy, therefore, must have 6 parts: plot, character, thought, diction, spectacle, and song.
Yeah.
And it goes on to say artistic imitation of an action that is serious, complete in itself, and of adequate magnitude. The function of a tragedy should be to arouse emotion of pity and fear in the audience, to bring about catharsis, which is emotional relief.
Yeah.
So, Prof,
And that's at the whatever else they've listed over there. That's at the core of it.
yes,
The whole idea of raising the emotion of the audience, and then releasing.
yes,
Releasing can be in a number of forms. Others can be screaming. Others can be weeping. So on. But again, at the heart of tragedy also is this whole idea of someone at a certain height, someone at a certain height of respectability, someone at a certain height. The respectability may not come from politics, it may come from an individual carrying his life, and therefore his or her life, and then something happens. The idea that that person is at a particular height and something happens to bring that person down, that becomes the seed of the what? That becomes the seed of the emotion. That becomes the whole idea of what is going to happen next to that person. So we see, for instance, in Oedipus, the king, who comes on the stage to be able to a kind of bring redemption to the Thebans, the people of Thebes, because they had been suffering. There had been a sphinx that had been carrying on, suppressing the people, and then Oedipus comes on the scene and is able to remove that. Yet the very Oedipus comes to a point, almost like something stabbing him in the back, because he had not known his own background very well. And when he comes to know about it, does all the raving and all that to make sure that he is in control, only to find out that fate, Fate, is even in greater control and destroys him. He brings the reality out, and all Oedipus does, is to pluck out his eyes. I didn't know that this was my birth. I didn't know that this was my background. And then the whole idea of destruction, the whole idea of him just walking off the stage blinded, that becomes a point of sorrow, and it breaks down the audience emotionally.
okay. We like for those of you who just got in, we're talking about tragedy, and we have the theme of civil disobedience. Whose law should you follow? Should you obey God's law or man-made law? Is it right to disobey laws that the government puts out if they are unjust, or if you deem them to be unjust? So we come to the story of Antigone, and for those of you who haven't read the play, we will just give you a brief outline. So here's the I think my computer. Okay, here it is. We have King Leos, who's married to Queen Jocasta, and you see the arrow. Queen Leos and Queen Jocasta, they have Oedipus. Oedipus is the son of Leos and Jocasta. Oedipus, unfortunately, kills Leos and marries Jocasta, right? Because he didn't know. I mean, well, he didn't know that Leos was his adopted father, I think. Right.
You have Leos. Leos
and Jocasta had Oedipus.
Leos was Oedipus. Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, and then Oedipus marries Queen Jocasta. So Oedipus marries his mother, unfortunately, without knowing, please, people. And then he and Jocasta they have, sorry, I think the slide kind of twisted when we added it. So he and Jocasta, they had 4 kids. They have Theolis, right, who is the son who died. They had Polynices,
Yes.
who also died. There were 2 sons, and they had 2 daughters, Ismene and Antigone.
Yes, very good.
Now, Queen Jocasta's brother is Creon.
Yes.
And Creon was married to Eurydice.
Yes.
And they had 1 son, Hymen. With me so far, people?
Yes.
Okay. So Antigone play is very brief. Theolis and Polynices, they started to fight. Right? They fought a war for succession.
Yes.
And they died. But only one of them was given a burial.
Yeah.
Right, Prof?
Yes.
Yes. Because Creon, who was king, decreed that Theolis will be buried and Polynices will not be.
Yes.
He will not be given an
Because
honorable
he
burial.
was more on the rebel side.
Yes. So he will not be buried. And anybody who dares to bury him will be put to death.
Yes.
Ismene is the sister, right?
Yes.
But she obeys the law.
Yeah.
Antigone says, no, this is my brother and he deserves a burial.
Yeah.
So she buries her brother, which is in violation of the law. She is called upon that. She is convicted, I guess is the word.
Yes.
And she dies. So I mean, people have read the book, so we can tell them the end, right?
Yes.
She dies. But the book is centered on whose law should be obeyed.
Yeah.
Is it correct for you to follow such a law if you know the law is unjust, just because the king says so, or do you follow your conscience or God's law? So that's the issue we're going to wrestle with here, and we want you all to join in as we discuss this. Okay, so Prof, that's the gist of the book.
Yeah.
The play, sorry.
Yeah. This is well said. Creon wants to dominate, or he continues to dominate, and he passes decrees, one of which has come to those steps of contention. And Antigone will not have any of that. For a very long time, it is being the height of human respectability for the death of individuals to be respected. And part of the respect is to be able to give every individual the decent burial possible. The decent burial possible. That someone must not be knowingly exposed to defilation by leaving that person to rot in the open. And it has been, at least as far as the perspective of man and God relationship is concerned, it has been a known fact that nobody should knowingly defy that. And Antigone knew that very well. And so when the uncle decreed that Polynices would not be buried, it pricked her very conscience, and she wanted to settle the matter. So gradually, she will come in and throw dirt on the brother. He kept doing it, and people were wondering who was doing that, who was doing this creepy type of burying someone who was declared a rebel. And eventually, she was caught. And so she, according to the Korean perspective, had to bear the full weight of the law.
Yeah, and when the guards caught her, you know, and they brought her to Creon, and they said, "Oh, this is the woman who's been bearing," you know. I mean, like he said, he couldn't believe it.
Yes.
You know, he said, do you confess this thing? She said, I do. I deny nothing. And I'm reading. He says, did you not hear my proclamation? And she said, but it was public. Of course, I heard it. You know. And he said, and yet you dare defy the law. And Antigone answers him, and I'm quoting, I dared. It was not God's proclamation. That final justice that rules the world below makes no such laws. Right?
And,
so yeah. So
and,
I mean,
and what you see in that statement is that of the very definition of natural law.
Yes.
The very definition of natural law, that it's immutable.
Yes.
The very law of nature is immutable, and it governs us all, as opposed to man-made laws that tend to favor the powerful against the powerless. Man-made law, in a number of instances, tend to be laws that favor the powerful and leave the powerless to the winds. And that's what Antigone was defining right there. Yeah, you have something on the screen.
Yeah, she says the natural laws are not merely now operative forever beyond man. She said, for these laws were not ordained of Zeus.
Yes.
And she who sits enthroned with gods below justice enacted not these human laws.
Yes.
Nor did I deem that thou, a mortal man, could aspire a breath, annul and override the immutable unwritten laws of heaven.
Yes.
Yes. So she said, but while I people can say, who be you?
Yeah, who be you? Yeah, that's right. Who be you?
Who be you to tell me what to do? Yeah. So she says, I mean, she says, first of all, God did not ordain this law.
Yeah.
And even justice on earth did not ordain this law. So who are you, man, to tell me that I cannot bury my brother?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that distinction, yes.
No, I'm just saying that. I mean, I'm sorry to make fun, but Prof, I mean, when we finish discussing, of course, we bring in what's happening in the world now, you know. But it's, I mean, it's man makes laws, you know, like a country to protect its citizen, they make laws, you know. But some of the laws are not unjust laws. Some of them are just laws.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So the unjust laws are to be disobeyed.
Yes.
Because God didn't make them. No. I don't understand that reasoning.
Nor are they in synchrony with natural laws.
Okay.
Laws that are not in synchrony with natural laws. For instance, the idea of one who kills need to be killed. In other words, that person is divesting another person of life. And if you are divesting someone of life, either you also lose your head and limb, or that you are put away for the rest of your life.
Yes, but like the guy was so shocked. He was like, "Didn't you hear?" And then she said, "But it was public."
Yes.
So I did hear. You know, and one thing that amazed me was that the guards, maybe they didn't know who she was.
Yes.
Who she were, because I mean, right? Because I mean, they brought her. But with this natural law that we keep wrestling with, people have wrestled with civil disobedience.
Yes, throughout the ages.
So here's one from our friend Martin Luther King. I mean, he's not our friend. I'm sorry.
Yeah, said, of course. He's our friend.
And people always talk about, I have a dream speech, but I love Letter from Birmingham Jail.
Yeah.
I think that is a masterpiece.
Yes.
And in the letter, he says, and I'm quoting, in any non-violent campaign, there are 4 basic steps.
Yes.
Collection of the facts to determine
Yes.
whether injustices are alive,
Yeah.
negotiation,
Yes.
self-purification,
Yes.
and direct
Yes.
action.
So
So let me move this and let's talk about that first. Negotiation.
mhm.
First, you gather the facts.
Yes. Research. Research.
Antigone gathered the facts.
Yes.
She knew what was happening.
Mm.
So the negotiation that was going on with Antigone was within herself.
Yes.
It was
And even
not
yes.
outside person.
Yes. And even too, while that internal negotiation is going on, it is possible too, in the case of Martin Luther King, it's possible that they were engaged with the powers at the time. You know, can this be settled without bloodshed? Can this be settled without, uh, destruction and all that kind of thing, without violence and all those things are part and parcel of the protocol or the ecology of what? Of settling disputes. So if you either ignore the ecology or destroy the pillars of the ecology, then definitely what happens then is that everybody for himself and God is for all. In other words, well, if we get into negotiation to settle things what? Peaceably. We negotiate to settle things peaceably. But if there are stumbling blocks that others create so that there isn't any conversation at all, then that is problematic. That's what we see over there, the idea of negotiation.
Yeah, because the negotiation, if we look at it, it's just not. If we look at it, is he says first, collection of the facts to determine whether injustices are alive.
Yes.
So she realized that. She collected the fact that my brother,
Yes.
there's been an injustice done to my brother.
Yes.
Negotiation: should I or should I not violate
Yes.
the law and bury him?
Yes.
Where does the self purification come in?
This is a point at which because of a standoff created, because of a standoff created, you are saying this is where your internal self, your internal decision comes in as far as self purification is concerned. Your internal decision is that, well, this is, I have done this, I have done that, I've done the other thing, and yet there isn't any way forward. Therefore, it's like what the Stoics in the past, those who knew harm was evident, but went ahead anyway to do that which they felt was what was very much important, not only to themselves, but to their kind, in terms of those who were also facing the suffering. So self-purification was intended to say, I am ready for whatever will happen.
Yeah.
Be that as it may, I am ready for whatever is going to happen. That was where the self-purification came in. That was where the decision of they are going to beat me, but I am not going to fight back.
Yes, and so that and then comes the barrier. That's the direct action.
Exactly.
Okay.
Comes the direct action.
So Martin Luther King continues. He said, "Let us turn to a more concrete example of just and unjust laws.
Yes.
An unjust law is a code that a majority inflicts on a minority
Yes.
that is not binding on itself.
Yes.
So the unjust law is the one that the powerful inflicts on the powerless.
Yes.
But the powerful does not have to obey it.
Yes.
It's
yes.
not binding on itself.
Which is unfair.
Yeah.
Yes.
He said this is a difference made legal.
Yes.
On the other hand, a just law is a code that a majority compels a minority to follow, and that it is willing to follow itself.
Yes, that's right.
This is sameness made legal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So if you have a law that doesn't take away Paul or take away Henry and what have you, then that law is binding on everybody. Then of course, in fact, there's no tension created.
So it means that if you had let the 2 boys rot,
yes,
that would have been different.
It's possible. Yes.
It's possible, yeah. She might have gone ahead and buried both of them, but you buried one of them
and left the other one to rot
the other one
in the open.
In the open, yeah. So I'm not obliged to follow your law.
Yes, I'm not obliged.
Yeah. So Prof, I mean, we'll come back to Antigone, but what would be such a law in Liberia, for example, that somebody could make and we wouldn't and we say is an unjust law?
But this is may not come to a specific law, for instance, but think about discriminatory laws. Think about discriminatory laws that, in fact, it may even come from basic things like obeying the traffic.
Yes, they make their own road.
Yes, they make their own rules. You talk about, I'm official of government, and therefore, one of the things that is even happening in Liberia now, even though the campaign season has not begun, there are people in CDC, for instance, or even that want to put up their posters and all that kind of a thing, and dare any other person to pull up his or her posters and what have you. That is one of the point of contentions in the country, as we talk about. So those discriminatory policies, those discriminatory ordinances that set those in power apart from those that are not in power would be an example of what we are talking about here. The traffic is heavy out there, and you put on serene, and you are talking about put on serene, making believe that you are in a place of emergency and what have you, and therefore you have to railroad the system. Once you get to the point of railroading the system, then that is an example of what unjust laws.
Yeah, because Martin Luther King says that it should be seamless made legal.
Yes.
It should be for every single person.
Yes. Everyone.
Yes.
Once it's not, if the question is asked, is it for everyone? And somebody says, no, it's not for everyone, but it's for the high and mighty. It's for only the high and mighty and their families and what have you, then there's a problem.
Yeah, there's a problem. So Antigone, they're saying to her, okay, now you have done this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you sorry you've done it? Of course she's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's not. And in fact, reading this, Prof, is really interesting the way she answers, yeah, because look at this one. She say it's terrible when the one who does the judging judges things all wrong.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to say, do not believe that you alone can be right. She's talking to Creon now.
Yeah.
The man who thinks that, the man who maintains that only he has the power to reason correctly, the gift to speak, the soul, a man like that, when you know him, turns out empty.
Yeah.
Which is almost a foreshadowing of what's coming.
Yes.
Turns out empty.
Yeah.
But she maintains that she had the right to bury her brother. Right? That as long as the law was not made by God.
Yes.
This law should not be obeyed.
Yeah.
But not only because it was made by God and not, made by men and not God, but because there was no sameness.
There was no sameness. That's right. The core part is sameness, and that is why I was talking about discriminatory policies and all that. That is how so many things get organized. Look at what is happening in Israel, for instance. Look at what is happening in Israel, where the Netanyahu government is trying to overturn, to make it look like the Supreme Court is not worthy of its salt and what have you. There are people, even many in the Israeli citizenry comportment, see what is happening. There are people in there who are rebelling against such laws that they want to promulgate in the place there. You see that in a number of capitals in the world. So the whole idea of the absence of sameness, becomes a linchpin.
It is when the law does not like people say, oh, don't climate change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't drive big cars.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's not a law per se, but people say
Yes.
don't drive big cars, and
Yeah.
then you see people driving big cars who are in government. But let's come back to: is it right to disobey these laws? Is it right? So she says, and it's a natural laws are not merely now operating forever beyond men utterly. Yea, for these laws were not ordained again by Zeus, right? And she who sits with God's below justice enacted not these laws.
Yes.
Nor did I deem that thou or mortal man could by a breath annul and override the immutable unwritten laws of heaven. So, Prof, my question is, how is it that we can say that Antigone was right, that this was not a law, a natural law, but a man-made law? So she could not follow it.
Yeah.
But should we not follow man-made laws?
It again, it's a tricky question. I remember we go back to Christ when they brought in the question of whether to pay taxes or not to pay taxes.
Okay.
And he asked for a coin and said, whose image is on this? The question of what are taxes for? What are taxes for became an underlying question. So that is why I said obeying man-made laws and not obeying man-made laws. One should not talk about 100% perfect yes or no. There's always going to be an area of gray. So one of those things that are supposed to help us is determining the sameness. If you are going to find people who pay taxes and others who do not pay taxes, then there is no sameness about that law. And therefore, one is supposed to counteract such a law. So the short of the long is that it's got to be a case-by-case basis. If the element of case-by-case basis, which is that approach to it, is lost, then definitely there is a problem.
So we come back to the cast of characters. It's kind of like really, I think okay. So we have Creon, right? Okay, so Creon is the king now.
Yes.
Creon is saying, don't bury
the rebel.
The rebel.
That's what it is. Because
rebel.
Polynices was saying Polynices was not on Creon's side.
Yes.
Aeolus was on Creon's side. That is
Yes.
why he was buried. But Polynices was a rebel according to Creon. According to Creon. Therefore, he should. It's like, there are so many instances where in Liberia, David Coleman and his son were left in the sun at what is BTC for a long length of time, so that the people were almost rotten before they were taken away. So rebels are supposed to be treated inhumanely. And in the case of Antigone and Polynices, Antigone said, no, whether he was a rebel or not, he also deserves burial. And you must create a equal playing field. If you cannot do that, then I resist. And if I have to pay for that with my life, then I have to pay with it with my. That's in the old Greek setting. You had the Stoics, those who accepted pain, who performed and accepted pain as what? As a punishment for whatever. So if you are going to disobey unjust laws, then it goes without saying that you must engage in self-purification to take whatever the outcome is. I will disobey. Let the chips fall where they may. I don't have time. That is the position that Antigone took. So
Yes.
the question is, should we obey? Well, if we feel in our hearts that what is going on is nonsense and we are willing to pay for it with our lives and what have you, so be it.
So if we look at these cast of characters again, right? For those who are just coming, Leos was married to Jocasta. Leos died, but Oedipus married Jocasta, who was who is his mother.
Yes.
He and Jocasta had these two boys, Theolis and Polynices, and then two girls, Ismene and Antigone. Theolis and Polynices went to war. Yeah, Prof?
Yes.
Yeah, they went to war again, and then they died.
Yes.
Creon is the king now, and Creon says, bury Theolis, but don't bury Polynices. Antigone said, that can't happen.
Yeah.
I will bury my brother. For that, she's convicted, you know, and decreed to die. Let me put it that way. But Prof, if we look at this, you know, like we always say, let me be contrary to you today.
Yeah.
If you look at Creon, right? Yes, he's the king, but he was shocked that Antigone had gone against him.
Yeah.
But he tried to explain to Antigone. If you remember in one of the scenes, he says to her, when they found Theolis and Polynices, they were almost rotting. They were hooked together.
Yeah.
He says they were kind of together.
Yeah.
And so they had to bury the one that were kind of like, you know, and the other ones they had to leave. Now that may be wrong, but he tried to justify. He didn't say, but this man was not on my side. He said that the body was not in good thing. So they decided to bury Theolis instead. So Creon, he tried to defend himself.
Yes, but the thing about it is that, you know, the whole idea of justification is more of consolation, and that happens to virtually everyone. You know,
Yes.
you want to at all times, except of course there's someone who has a better reasoning, will justify actions. You know, when someone eats what he's not supposed to eat or eat what she's not supposed to eat, there is a justification. The same thing
Yes.
about you know, but the thing about it is the question of, is that logical justification, or is justification just to make an individual person feel okay? There's always the feel okay aspect of justification, but we have to look beyond what this person is trying to justify and what have you. So in the case of Polynices and Aeolus, you find out that Aeolus was really on the side of Creon. It's like he was on the friendly side and Polynices was not on the friendly side. And whatever justification he tried to give, people will see beyond. People will see beyond and see that this person was just just having a feel good moment. Not all feel good moments are moments to be respected and tolerated.
And you know, Creon, another thing is, I think he tried to act powerful, but because don't forget, He only became king when Oedipus went into exile.
Yeah, that's right.
So sometimes when you think that your place is not too secure,
Yes.
you don't have bravado.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But one of the speeches that I love, it's I mean Merchant of Venice, the quality of mercy is not strained and dropping, but as gentle dew from the
Yes.
that's like perfect. But
Yes.
people tend to forget Haman.
Yeah.
Haman, Creon's son, Haman,
Yes.
was engaged to
So
Antigone.
Antigone, yes.
He was in love with
Yes.
Antigone, right? And is his fiancée is being put to death by Creon.
Yes.
So Haman did not want Antigone to die.
Yes.
Ismene also did not want Antigone to die.
Yeah.
In fact, Ismene, at the end, she said, "Oh, I will go and bury him too. I will bury him so I can die with you."
Yeah.
And Antigone said, "Oh, this civil disobedience is catching. Everybody wants to do it, But Haman, I mean, one of the best speeches when he's begging his father to save Antigone.
Yes.
And I will just read just a short, I didn't put it in the spreadsheet, but Prof, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
He says, "Father," I'm quoting now, "reason is God's crowning gift to man." Oh, I like that. It's God's crowning gift to man.
Yes.
And you are right to warn me against losing mine. He said, "I cannot say, I hope that I shall never want to say that you have reasoned badly. Yet there are other men who can reason too, and their opinions might be helpful. You are not in a position to know everything."
Yeah.
That's what he says. Now he goes down. He said, "Your temper," he said, "people say or do what they feel." Right? You are not in a position to know everything that people say or do or what they feel. Your temper terrifies them.
Yes.
Everyone will tell you only what you like to hear.
Yes.
But I, at any rate, can listen. And I have heard them muttering and whispering in the dark about that girl. They say no woman has ever so unreasonably died so shameful a death for a generous act.
Yes.
She covered her brother's body. Is this indecent? She kept him from the dogs and the vultures. Is that a crime? Death? She should have all the honor that we can give her. That is the way they talk out here in the city. You must believe me.
Yeah.
Nothing is closer to me than your happiness. Do not believe that you alone can be right. The man who thinks that, the man who maintains that only he has the power to reason correctly, the gift to speak to soul, a man like that, when you know him, turns out empty. It is not reason never to yield to reason.
Yeah.
In flood time, you can see how some trees bend. And because they bend, even their twigs are safe. Why stubborn trees are torn up, roots and all. Prof, this is like, I'm telling you, this is a son talking to his father and saying, look, the people are telling you, oh yeah, this girl should die because she violated your laws. But I listen to them when they are not around you. And they are saying that this girl should be honored for burying her brother. Because you always get angry, they are scared of you.
Yeah.
But I am listening to these people. And these people are saying that we should honor this girl.
Yeah.
But he talks about reason. He said no man can know everything. And you have to yield to reason. He said a tree, right? He said a tree that in the flood, the trees that bend protects is the one that stand up.
Yeah.
The tree that doesn't move, the roots and everything, the water carries it. It's a beautiful speech, and he loves Antigone.
We see the element of hubris, the
Yes.
element of hubris that's going to, even if not physically, but the element of hubris is going to destroy Creon. Because even Creon's wife and all those people, they come in to beg and what have you, and Creon will not listen. It
And
is it is when it is when the son kills himself now that Creon sees the futility of obeying hubris.
and he tells Creon, he says, you don't lose your head over this woman, because when your pleasure with her is done, you will have a Hellcat. He said, yeah, but you see, Prof, the interesting thing about these characters is that if you look at them, the one person who we hardly ever see in the play is Eurydice, Creon's
Yeah.
wife. She sits there knitting. They say she's sewing, she's knitting.
Mhm.
She never says a word.
Mhm.
But then at the end,
Mhm.
right? And Hyman tells Creon, he says that, Antigone will not die alone.
Mhm.
So of course, at the end, Creon kills himself because because
Yeah,
his loved one is dead. But
you right.
Eurydice,
Yeah.
Creon's mother,
Mhm.
she continues sewing, and at the end, she just goes to bed and cuts her throat and
Yeah.
kills herself.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying, I am more a mother than a
Mhm.
queen,
Yeah.
because you don't see her acting, oh, the queen says this, the queen says
Mhm.
that. She's just very quiet,
Yeah. And
But then again,
it's burning within, quiet, but it's burning within.
but Prof, that's why I think this book is important.
Mhm.
That's why we talk about disobedience.
Yeah.
You see, Eurydice as queen, she cannot go against Creon.
Mhm.
Because don't forget, people were saying that, when he says something, that's it.
Yeah.
So she cannot go against Creon,
Mhm.
right? But in her own way, when her son dies, and she realizes that, okay, Creon has nobody now, he has no son, nothing. We will show him that he has nothing, he will be
Mhm.
empty. In her own way, her death is disobedience.
Yeah.
You know, she cannot,
Stoicism.
like people say, oh, you can do protest. Not everybody can protest,
Yeah.
but in your own way,
Yeah.
you can have non-violent protest.
Yes.
And for Eurydice, it may be extreme,
Yeah.
but she decides that, you know what, I will kill myself.
Mhm.
That is the ultimate
Yes.
protest for me.
It's
Yeah.
uh it's a moving. I mean, the word moving is sometimes it loses its value, but it is an impressive. It's an impressive play.
Yes.
It's an impressive play because one of the things that people use to evaluate the importance of a work is the multifaceted themes that issue out of that work so
Yes.
that as many people as we can possibly think about can draw lessons from that piece of work. And the play by Sophocles is one such play in terms of going in there, state power, people's power, uh, the context of law, the efficacy of law, all those things are packed in that one play. And it is just one play, yes, but remember that Sophocles did a trilogy, and each of those has a full weight of the lessons that humanity can be taught and the lessons, hopefully, that humanity can absorb, imbibe.
And one of the things that's interesting is that you know, with Creon is a legitimate ruler.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, you know, that like he snuck his way. He's a legitimate ruler.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it also shows you that a legitimate government, there's no guarantee that they cannot pass unjust laws.
Mm-hmm.
They can
Of course,
pass unjust laws.
because at the center of it all is that because humanity is flawed. Humanity is flawed. Uh, if we go to Matthew Arnold, his terms, uh, Hellenism and Hebraism, you talk about Hellenism, at the center of it is man saying that he is flawless. I'm talking about generic man, is flawless. But when you get to Hebraism, that's where you see the recognition of the frailness, the uh, faultlessness of God and the fault-filled creature called man. And therefore, in the context of Hebraism, man, it is said, will have to look to the divine to be able to draw inspiration. Now, talking about a legitimate government, uh, uh, the possibility that a legitimate government can issue unjust laws, it is because human beings are not what? Flawless. So, in that instance, we want to make sure that instead of just making a sweeping statement that all human laws are unjust laws, we should be able to take it from the approach of what? Going at it case by case. There are other laws that synchronize with natural laws. There are other laws that synchronize with natural laws. Those we must obey. But if there are laws that are not synchronized with natural laws, in other words, that are not immutable, then definitely we have to take a stand.
And also uh Antigone, she didn't
Mm-hmm.
just go and bury him,
Mm-hmm.
right? She thought about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know,
There
she
has to
thought
be a
about it.
thought process. Yes.
She thought about it. So it wasn't like she said, oh, I'm just going to do this. No,
Mm-hmm.
she said,
Yeah.
should I do this? So she
Yes.
negotiated with herself.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why Creon was so shocked
Yeah.
when they brought her. He said, why are you bringing me Antigone? And the
Yeah.
God was like, oh, but there's a woman.
That's the one we saw. That's the one we
That's
saw.
the woman. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, and when she went in, she told Ismeni what she had done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, because when she came in, she saw, and she says to her, if you have made your choice, you can be what you want to be.
Yes.
Yeah, but I will bury him. And
Yeah.
if I must die, I say that this crime is holy. I
Mm-hmm.
shall lie down with him in death, and I shall be as dear to him as he is to me. It is the dead, not the living, who makes the longest demand. We
Mm-hmm.
die forever. You may do as you like. Said apparently the laws of the gods mean nothing to you.
Yeah.
So she
Yeah.
said, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
But it's many, if you look at these characters, yeah, it's many says to her, because she says to Ismeni, the laws of the God mean nothing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Ismeni said, no, that's not true. They mean a great deal to me, but I have no strength to break the laws that were made for the public good.
Mm-hmm.
I have no strength,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, to break the laws that were made for the public good. So for Ismeni, this is a good law.
This is what we are saying. This is what we are saying, that when you talk about uh, justification,
Yeah.
not all feel good moments are good moments. Not all feel good moments are good moments.
Yeah.
If you are speaking from the context of fear wrapped up in that feel good moment, then there's a problem. Then there's a problem. in Liberia, there was a time of leave those people's thing alone.
Mm-hmm.
Leave those people's thing alone. So it was more of it was feel good, marinated in fear.
Yeah.
They had seen how state power had crushed standoffs and what have you, and they didn't want to be part of it. That's what that's how that phrase came out. Leave those people's thing alone. But if it gets to a point where uh, the pain is unbearable, then definitely there is a reason to fight back. We might kind of plan it in such a way that that fighting back will not result in tremendous loss of lives and property. But
Yeah.
there has to be a defense put up so that people recognize that those that are in power, it is not robots that they are dealing with. We saw a bit of that in China, for instance, in recent times, where the Chinese government thought that by applying draconian tactics, they will keep the people indoors. But it got to the point that the people fought back. Eventually, the government had to water it down. And they said, okay, 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 things are all right. We saw that in Iran, for instance, when that little girl was killed, and it was expected that nobody would say anything, but the people rose up. As a result, the morality police, the whole concept of morality police was what? Was dismantled. So time and time again, we'll find these things. You may have the so-called legitimate government applying tactics that are inhumane, and the people will have to rise. The people will have to rise to make sure that it is not robots that are being dealt with. These people have blood and flesh like yourself, except that it is just a matter of having little power over them. But when the moment comes for them to rise, they rise.
Yeah, and Antigone, when Ismeni says to her, "Okay, you're going to bury our brother, but I wouldn't tell anybody," she says to her, "Tell everybody, you
Yeah,
know, tell people
I don't
because
care. I don't
yeah,
care.
I don't really care because I'm going to bury the brother I love."
Yes.
But Prof, I mean, this we focus on Antigone, but
Mhm.
this, I mean, the different characters in this, they are worth exploring,
Yeah.
and I say that because um when you're talking to people back home, and some of them will say, "Oh, I'm not going to vote anymore."
Yeah.
That's a form of civil disobedience because you're
Yes.
supposed to vote.
Yeah.
And like Ismeni, this person who's not going to vote says, "I have no strength left
Yeah.
anymore." Right? So that's their civil disobedience because Thoreau says you got to prioritize your conscience over the
Yes.
dictates of the law. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you say,
Yes.
"No, I'm not going to vote anymore." Then you
Yeah.
have people who say, "Of course, I will vote. It's the
Yeah.
law." Right?
And
So
and
all of these people. Mhm.
another aspect to it is that that's where it gets tricky. We saw that in the case of Obama's rise to leadership in the second uh, okay, when it came to the point of voting in Hillary Clinton,
Mm.
what Obama laid out. Yes, you don't want to vote. Yes, you're tired of vote, but there are certain things that are at stake. There are certain things that are at stake. So if you get into the so-called civil disobedience by not voting, you will allow those who want to conquer and treat you badly to overpower you, and that is how Donald Trump came in. So these things are very intricate. That's what I wanted to say. These things are very intricate. At one point, you really have to sit down. You really have to sit down with your thinking bodies to make sure that whatever civil disobedience you are carrying on, especially within the context of voting, does not eventually sadly destroy you. So that constant conversation has to go on. That constant civic education has to go on to make sure that when it comes to the area of elections and what have you, please do not allow your civil disobedience perspective to destroy whatever thing you were trying to sustain. You see what I'm talking about? So conversation is very much important. That's if there's a lesson to learn from what I'm saying here, conversation is very much important. Dialogue is very much important so that people see all sides. Those who want to engage in civil disobedience, they see all sides and be able to take that decision that will be productive, as opposed to that decision that will not be productive.
And I mean, I agree with you. And sometimes, like Antigone said in the play, she said, I think I can add it. I think we have it here. She said, nobody has a more sacred obligation to obey the law than those who make the law.
Yes.
Right? I have nothing but contempt for the kind of governor who is afraid, for whatever reason, to follow the course that he knows is best for the state.
Yes.
Yeah. Because at the end of Antigone, if you remember, Creon, they did bury Polynices.
Yes.
They did. They went and they bathed him and they buried him. So what was the law that forbid them to not bury him in the beginning that caused Antigone to die, but at the end you bury him? Why?
So there's this whole idea of, you see, especially with contentious issues, you cannot have studied it.
Yes.
You cannot have studied a contentious. You've got to be able, even if those things hurt, you must be willing to look at all sides. If it is 8 sides to it, you must study all 8 sides. If it is 10 sides to it, you must study all 10 sides. Even not studying one side of the 10 is going to be problematic. And if everything is destroyed before you want to study it, then it becomes what? It becomes afterthought, and that's useless.
I don't think that I think that Martin Luther King is right when he says unjust laws are laws that the majority makes for the minority to follow, or the minority makes for the majority to follow.
Yeah.
And a just law is one that the minority makes for the majority and the minority and themselves to follow.
Because the majority and minority thing tends to be a little convoluting. I talk about powerful and powerless.
Okay.
Yes, that's crazy. If the powerful make laws that should be followed only by the powerless, then there is a problem.
Yeah.
It's got to be a law or a set of laws that should be followed by both the powerful and the powerless.
Yes. And unjust law is a code that a majority inflicts on a minority that is not binding on itself.
Yes. The powerful.
This is difference made legal.
Yes.
On the other hand, a just law is a code that a majority compels a minority to follow, and that it is willing to follow itself.
Yes.
This is sameness made legal.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we come now to Creon. Wife dies, son dies, niece dies.
Yes.
Right? Antigone dies. And so he's left with nothing. So at the end, like he said, lead me out. It's or let me in. Yeah. It's like I'm done now.
Yeah.
That I have nothing left. But one of the things that is very that is characteristic of these plays is the chorus.
Yeah.
The chorus almost becomes a character in itself.
Yes.
know, because they are there to forewarn.
Mm-hmm.
They are there to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
So the character, they're just standing there, but what they're doing is they are
the
telling.
conscience. That's the conscience.
Yes, that's the conscience. Yeah.
The chorus becomes the conscience of the play. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It shines, it celebrates, it wants, and that sort of a thing.
and you know, Hyman tries to tell Creon about the sycophancy of the citizenry.
Yeah.
You know, that you see when Creon is passing, they're clapping, they're saying all the nice things, like in Liberia right now, saying all the nice things you want them to say. But that's what he says. He says it's your temper that terrifies them, because when you are not there, they say something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, believe me, I listen to them, you know, so I know, you know. So this subject of sycophancy is not in Liberia alone. It's wherever, it's in the world.
It's in the human DNA.
Yes.
It's in the human DNA. There are things, experiences, training, and what have you, that kind of temper that sycophancy. You know, religion, positive religion, really. You know, these things tend to kind of restrain the vaunting capacity of what? Of sycophancy. If it is not there, even people who call themselves bishops, archbishops, and all those, they will fall to it. And when such people fall to it, it becomes what? It becomes virulent. It becomes virulent. I'm talking about sycophancy. It becomes virulent in the society. Maybe we can listen to our audience now and see whatever we can begin to talk about.
Yeah, but actually there are not a lot of comments. I think people are just this
Listen.
Friday. Let's see if there are comments.
Okay. But you know,
Rena is watching the show from Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah. Other than that, I think people are just listening. There are people listening. You know, if you want to join the conversation, you let us know. I mean, is it? I mean, our unjust laws. Are we to obey unjust laws just because they are written by governments
people,
that we live under, or is it that we have to obey God's law?
Yes.
You know, Prof, it's also the reading of God's law, right? I mean, what law is that Antigone is saying is God's law? It's the love of family.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see,
love
she
of
said,
family, love of humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, she says that. She said, there's no shame in loving kith and kin.
Yeah.
There's no shame in it. So the love for family is God's law.
Yeah.
It's natural law.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that this law you're making is to say to me, don't
supersede that. Yeah.
It should supersede. No, it cannot. You know, it's like saying, like in Egypt. Remember when they say, put the firstborn to death.
Yeah.
That's a man-made law.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a natural law.
Yeah.
The natural law would be a husband loves his wife.
Yeah. Love the children as well. Yeah.
Love is a natural law.
Yeah.
You know, it's a natural law, and you're saying to me,
feeling towards one another. Yeah.
And I cannot go against it. Yeah. So that's a natural law versus man-made law. And we are not, and according to Antigone, we are not to go against our natural law just to please a man-made law. Yeah. I think that's very interesting. And as I said, there are a lot of things in this
play. Yeah.
You know, I mean, like we say, you know, love. Haman really loved Antigone. I mean, he killed himself, but he loved his father, and you can see that. You know, that's a natural law. He's begging his father to be reasonable. You know, so that's a natural law. Yeah. So we see that as well. We see that of a mother who loves her child. That's a natural law.
Yeah.
You know, Eurydice kills herself when Hymen dies. You know,
and
she's not worried about being queen. She wants her son. You know,
talking about the intense feeling of a mother towards the child, and what isn't that what set apart the wisdom of Solomon? It
Yes.
says yes.
Yes, that's a natural law.
Yes,
Yes.
in that case, two women. Nobody was around when this other person's died and what have you. But Solomon, given the wisdom from the gods, was able to. He said, "Well, okay, since we cannot so easily predetermine who this kid is for, the best thing is let us split the child into two, so that one will carry the lower part, the other will carry the higher part." This is where the issue of natural law,
Yes.
yes, revealed itself.
Yes.
Okay, well, if you people decide to kill this child, I will prefer the child to live
Yes.
than to have the child cut into two. Because
Natural law, the law of
yes,
one
yes,
child.
the mother who was actually the 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 owner of that child said, "Well,
Yes. Yes.
I'm interested in the living condition. I'm interested in the reality that this child must live. Therefore, please do not cut the child into half."
Yes. Yes.
And right there, Solomon said, "Hold it, hold it." Yes,
And
on the
Antigone, Antigone is also saying that, a natural law is a leader
Mhm,
who loves his subjects
mhm.
and want to do right by them. That's a
Yes,
natural law.
yes,
When you make laws, unjust laws that you yourself cannot
yes,
live under,
yes, mhm,
then that's a law we must disobey.
yes,
Because the person who's governing
yes,
must want the best for the governed.
yes,
That's a natural law.
yes.
Yeah.
And we know that natural laws are immutable,
Yes. Immutable.
immutable.
Yes.
The sameness about them, there's immutability of them, that sort of a thing. So those become the 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 guiding, those become the guardrails of what is meant by just laws, what is meant by natural laws, and what have you. And again, the whole idea of definition, comes out of you give an example with uh, Dr. King. He said, "How do you arrive at direct action? How do you arrive at the civil disobedience? There are steps to be followed.
Yes.
You must research, you must study the problem in its entirety.
Yes.
And when you study it in the entirety, you have the data, you have the the qualitative stories. You see, because research has to do with numbers as well as it has to do with stories. You must bring all those things to, because how you know that this thing is going on? Well, we don't know. They say it's there. Therefore, no. You
Collection of the
must,
facts.
yes, yes, yes. You must study the thing in its entirety. If it has 8 parts, study all 8 parts. If it has 10 parts, study all 10 parts, so that you know where you are going. You get
Yes.
to the point of negotiation.
Negotiation. Yeah.
Negotiation may be negotiating with your conscience. It may be negotiating with the external forces. And if you've gone through that and nothing is working, then you get to what? Self purification. In
Yes.
other words, you are ready to accept,
Yes.
come what may. You
Yes.
are ready to accept that. And then, so that when something happens to you, you will not blame other. You will say, "Well, I blame." It's like talking about as existentialism. You get to the point of saying, "Well, if I do this, I am what is going to come out. I will accept it."
Yes. And then that you know, Prof, is I mean it's simple. It's like your mother says, come home before 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's her law.
Yeah.
Right. And then you start to think that's an unjust law because
Yeah.
the fun starts after 6 o'clock. I've collected the evidence. The evidence says that the party will start 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Then you negotiate with yourself because what
Yes.
you're saying is,
Let
should
them
I
beat
miss
me.
this party
Yeah.
or should I go to the party and then just take the beating?
Yes.
The self
That,
purification comes when you
yes.
say, okay, I will take the beating.
Yes. That's
And
a
then
very
direct action is getting
yes.
in a taxi
Yeah.
to go to that
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yes,
You
it's
know,
as simple as that.
I know it's
I
a
will
joke, but
take the yes. I will take
it's exactly what it is. It's like when we were on campus and the people are protesting, my grandmother would say, "Don't leave those people thing."
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, "No, but I have to go. I have to be there."
Yeah.
You know, so then you know that when you come back, she's going to be angry with you, but you're going to go.
Yeah.
You're going to take the direct action.
Mm-hmm.
So it is with any law. So when they say collection, you see, Prof, it's great to look at these things and then to read it again, because what he's saying, you collect the facts to determine whether injustices are alive.
Yes.
So the mayor, he's not saying, oh, just go and start protesting. You have to decide
Study
what's happening here.
Yes.
That I find unacceptable.
Yes.
And that's what, and then you take the action.
Yeah. It's got to do with some parts of you talk about study the causal relationships. Study the causal relationships.
Yeah.
Study the stimuli, and then you talk about the response. Study the stimuli, and then you talk about the response. Yes.
Yeah.
Those are very much important.
Yeah. So we've come to another end. We could talk forever.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just go on and on and on. Because I was like, wow, we spent an hour, 30 minutes talking. You know, I know another show is coming on, but we should talk more about Antigone, because I think that we've barely touched the surface. You know, there's so much underneath that we need to talk about, you know. So I think that we should talk about it some more. But Prof,
the relevance is palpable.
Yeah. But see, now it's in the night. As I said, we all have to this Friday night. Yeah. So we all have to go home and get to sleep to get ready for another week. So we'll do our closing. We want to thank all of you who stopped by to listen to us. We're here every Friday at 6 o'clock. We're thinking about changing the time because it seems as if a lot of people don't have time on Friday. They have other things to do. But we are here for now, and we'll let Prof say a few words before we close.
Yeah. One of the things I continue to say is when you get information, it is important for you to study that information. It is important for you to study the who sends this information, to know the motivation, the motivating factor. You also want to study what that information is intended to do for you and the collective whole. That is what we saw in the steps that Dr. King laid out. They may not be as clear as possible in Antigone, but studying Antigone gave him the ability to be able to line out those steps. We never should go into things in a rash moment. There has to be the studying to be able, again, it comes back to the CT, the critical thinking factor that we've always talked about in this place here. You must ask questions. You must ensure that those questions have viable responses. And using those, you will be able to articulate whatever you are doing and why you are doing it. If you can articulate in a fair and clear manner why you are doing what you are doing, then it is very much important. That is part of the set of experiences we talk about, set of the lessons we talk about here when we are studying any literary work you have or any historical work we have to talk about. So we hope that you will keep in mind the need for you to ask questions. Be a questioning type. Be a questioning type. Do not be some dumb driven cattle. As Henry Wadsworth Longfellow would say, do not be what a dumb driven cattle. Pose questions, ask questions.
Yeah, and we want to thank you all for joining us again. And you know, if you have the time, read Antigone.
Yeah.
You know, because it was not an act that she did rashly.
Yeah.
You know, she thought about it, because there were it wasn't just don't bury him.
Yes.
It was, if you bury him, you die.
Yeah.
So she knew the consequences before she did the action.
Mhm.
You know, but she negotiated with herself, and she said,
Yes.
this is something I'm willing to do.
Yes.
You know, she said, I mean, because for kith and kin, that I love my kinsman, and I will bury him. You know,
Love
and so she was
humanity.
prepared to take the consequences.
Yes.
And like we say, you know, there are natural laws, like the love a parent has for the child. That's natural, you know. And when there are unjust laws that go against that, then you have a problem. The problem comes with the conflict of the will and the
Yeah.
mind. You
Yeah.
know, what should I do? And some people, they do nothing.
Mhm.
Like Eastmany, they do nothing because they don't have the strength.
Yes.
Some people, they go to extreme, like Eurydice, kill themselves. And some people, they say, you know what, I would do what is supposed to be done and let the chips fall where they may, like Antigone. So we all fall on one side of that spectrum, the extreme, or in the middle, or on the other side. But we thank you for being with us today. We thank Paul Kumeni, and we thank Boina for being with us. We hope that you all will be here next week. We will discuss another topic. We want to say thank you. Stay safe. Be well. What is it? We always say, Prof, and we are all Liberians. So
Yeah.
it may be that some of us we are
For Antigone.
like Antigone. Some of us we are like Creon. Some of us like, don't put me in your trouble. But we are all Liberians, and we will lift Liberia up. So thank you, and good night. Good night, Prof.
Good night. Okay. Safe.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our